Good day again. Jay with Bitten by Books, Book Bites from Great Scott Audio Productions. Today we are, number one, casual gear. I'm not wearing my normal mock turtleneck or turtleneck. It's going to be a 91 outside today, and inside we're heating up the entire house. Kimberly is doing creamed corn. So we're going to go ahead and pimp Hal's Books here in Portland, which I love dearly. Today we're going to do BlackBladeBlues by J.A. Pitts. Relatively new series, fantastic author, so much fun to read, really good fight scenes, a lot of good snarky humor, fantastic heroine. She's wonderful. Sarah is an amazing, amazing character. Really good depth, a lot of fun. I think if you pick it up, you'll really, really like it. It's a lot of good tongue-in-cheek, a lot of snarkage, which I am such a huge fan of. We're going to go ahead and start with chapter 1, as that seems like to be my trend, just because that's less spoilers and more of a, hey, let's give you something to get your teeth into and see if you can go out and grab these. The warrior king stood atop the hill, the light of a new dawn cresting behind him. His pompadour, tall and proud as a coxcomb, blocked the sun, casting his face in shadow. Tiny shafts of light sprayed from the crystals adorning his glowing white armor. The ebony blade he held above his head drank in the light, casting a halo around his upraised hands. "I declare this land free from oppression," he called. His voice rang. "I claim this, my birthright, this sword, made from the shattered horn of Mephisto, and handed down to me from my father, and from his father before him. With this I cast the goblins from this land." He swung the sword to drag it across the rocky crag and shower sparks down upon the goblin horde at his feet. Instead, I watched the sword strike the Ferrocrete stage and snap. Fully 1/3 of the blade ricocheted toward the goblins, who scattered, squealing. Actors are so stupid. It was not supposed to actually hit the stage. That's what special effects are for. "Cut!" Carl called. Carl was the director. JJ flung the sword to the ground, sending the goblins into full retreat. "Stupid, useless props!" The overhead lights came up, and the sound stage appeared, shattering the image of a vengeful king of rock and roll and his mighty sword of doom. I love my job. "Everybody take 15, Carl said into his microphone. "Sarah, do not kill the actors." Several of the stagehands chuckled and cast sideways glances my way. I counted to 10. Honest, I did. At least 7, I'm almost positive. 17 extras in horrid rubber goblin suits began to waddle out to the lot, lighting cigarettes, their large costume heads under their arms. I stormed over to JJ. "You idiot! You aren't supposed to actually hit the stage." "Well, the damn thing's too freaking heavy," he whined. "Can't we use a lighter prop? Maybe one that doesn't break?" I knelt down, looking at the pieces. For a moment, I wanted to pummel JJ with the flat of the blade. I'd only likely bruise him. Likely. Behind me, Carl sighed. "Do we have another black sword?" "No," I said. Here goes a second career down the toilet. "Well, it's too damn heavy," JJ groused. "Maybe you can make one out of, styrofoam or something." I just stared at the back of his sweaty, overstyled head as he sauntered toward the gaggle of women waiting along the back of the soundstage. With a sigh, I picked up the sword firmly by the handle. The broken blade lay forlornly on the rocks. It was a bad break, snapping midway to the tip. Be a bitch to repair this one. Reforging a sword was tricky business. I do the blacksmithing thing for a living, so I had some idea what I was talking about. Being prop manager here was my night gig. Not like I'd planned this life. I took welding in high school and loved working with metal. I went to college to get away from my family, well, mainly my father, but didn't find any satisfaction in it. And I was convinced I'd come home after college and fit the mold he'd wanted. The blacksmithing school I went to saved my life, frankly. My father wanted me to get married and squeeze out a half dozen puppies, be a good homemaker, adore my husband, go to church. I'd rather gouge my eyes out. My farrier school gave me a reference to Julie Hendrickson, the blacksmith master I work for. She's super cool, but the pay doesn't cover all my bills. Student loans really add up. I found the movie gig by accident. Carl hassled me at a local science fiction convention. He thought it was cool I was a blacksmith. We chatted. I ended up he made movies. Needed someone who was creative at making things, and here I am. My two careers meshed together pretty well. Julie had no problem letting me use her forge after hours as long as I covered the expenses and cleaned up what it was I had done. Tonight's wages would cover fixing the Black Blade and maybe help me afford to make a few more for the upcoming conventions. Cons were a good place to sell weapons. Everyone who showed up wanted to be a hero or rescued by one. I was only too obliged to support the fantasy. Whatever made people happy, you know. Of course, I'd be on my own for this effort. Julie was a farrier and a good teacher, but her weapon skills sucked. Which was a shame, actually. You could make a decent amount of scratch if you had made good weapons or armor. There was always someone willing to buy a cheap sword, but the real money was in the collectors and the cosplay folks. They liked the real thing. Costume players. Cosplay. Anyway, they wanted to look the coolest, have the best accessories. I did my level best to fill that niche. Most shows had crappy knockoff weapons made in Pakistan, so I had a market. But this sword, my Black Beauty, she was a special blade, not some beater we used in the society or used to play dress-up. The Society for Creative Anachronism folks would never risk their precious weapons like this. Reenactors were crazy authentic and treated their gear better than their spouses in some cases. The group I ran with, Black Briar, they were on the normal end of loony. Still, they thought I was nuts to risk a blade of this quality on a movie shoot. Thanks again, and have a good weekend.